My mother's she's a Southern woman from the Virginia area, and this is what I found out later. And I only can remember for a small period of, from a small, real small increment of my life that I lived in Bedford-Stuyvesant in the early middle '70s. Eventually, we had to move. We were evicted. We had to leave the house. All of our furniture was um, really politely decorated the concrete outside, so we had to, me and my brother, I guess we had to sit on the furniture to wait till my mother can get a place for us to stay. And it was just after that, it was pretty much hard times, welfare, when we moved to Brownsville, which was a much more aggressive neighborhood. And it just wasn't good. It was just crime-infested, drug-infested neighborhood, and it was very aggressive. And my mother had knew a lot of men. Her and her friends knew a lot of men. It wouldn't be abnormal for me to come from one of my friends' houses, to come from outside a man and a woman is in one of my mother's room. Or my mother's in a room with a man and a woman, and we can't go in the room, but we have to stay outside in the kitchen, perhaps, or the living room, and we can't go in the back of the room until they're finished. And that's just how our life's been. And as time went on, I've learned to while people were in the back that I would, and they fell asleep, I would go in their pockets and take their money. And that's just how it's been. That's just what it was all about. I learned how to steal at a young age. When my mother's friends were in her house, they were drinking, I learned to go in their house from the fire escape and rob their house while they were downstairs drinking with my mother. And that's just what I learned to do in my life. I was born with great perception. It came from my street life, from being locked up for stealing and facing unbelievable odds as a young kid. I had great perception. And once I watched these guys fight, I just knew it was a matter of time, but I knew my time would soon come. I knew I would obtain my goal before it existed. I knew that. I knew I would be champ of the world before I died. I knew I wasn't going to die before I became champ. You know, dying is just as glorious as living when you really think about it, because you couldn't have a life if you didn't have death, and you couldn't have death without life. So how could death be less glorious than life? They're both intertwined with one another. Because even though I was a street kid and I would come with like a tough kid, I never had an ego. I was never really jealous of anybody. I never really thought much of myself. But when I met Cus and I started talking to Cus, he made me believe that I was a god. He made me believe that, for instance, Cus would say this. Now, to Cus would say, now you hear this? Because Cus had he had this really megalomaniac ego. He said, let me tell you something. All the prophets, all the gods you ever know about, if they had a son, their son couldn't beat my fighter. Know why? Because he's my fighter.
I can say honestly, I have a very deep affection for him. I do. To me, he's my boy. He's with me. I often say to him, I owe you a lot, and he doesn't know what I mean, but I'm going to tell him now what I mean. If he weren't here, I probably wouldn't be alive today. The fact that he is here and doing what he's doing, and doing as well as he's doing, and improving as he has, gives me the motivation and interest to stay alive. Because I believe that a person dies when they no longer wants to live. But I have a reason with Mike here, and he gives me the motivation. I will stay alive, and I will watch him become a success, because I will not leave until that happens.
He spoke with me every night about discipline and character.
It is the mark of a great fighter when he has character plus skill, because a fighter with character and skill will often rise and beat a better fighter because of this. Character is that quality upon which you can depend under pressure and other conditions. Character makes the fighter predictable. Character helps him win.
I remember I was a young kid and I was getting put on the front cover of maybe Ring magazine at the time, a big-time magazine it was. Could have been Sports Illustrated, but one of these magazines, I got put on the magazine, and there's a bunch of cameras around there, and I was feeling myself. I was smiling, laughing with the guys like I was a big shot. And then right after that, Cus said, grab the broom and mop and sweep, clean the gym. And whoa, and that's just what I had to do. You know, I just knew my place with him. I just knew my place, you know. Like things I would say with other people, I would never say with him. He would only have to call me one time and I would be there. It was never like, hey, be there in a minute. I wanted to make Cus proud. That was my whole existence for fighting. I wanted to make him proud. I never knew what it was like to have a fighter. A father. So now I understand what some kids must feel when they can't make their fathers happy. Because he would do anything for me. What this guy always tells me, he says, I'm allowing my mind to get the better of me. Your mind, you don't have your mind on your work. You're not being disciplined. He really knew that. He always believed that his mind could heal anything. He believed if he had cancer, his mind could heal cancer. He was a strong believer that your body only purpose was to carry your brain. And, you know, he was just amazing, man. I was never able to understand the concept of greatness. I just never was able to understand that concept of greatness. And as time went on and I've gotten older and I've met many journeys on people that I met on my journey and people who I've read about on my journey. I read that all greatness, the majority of greatness in itself doesn't come with goodness. The two don't coexist with one another. And I spent all my life trying to become great because I had such a low self-esteem. And I realized late in life, well, I'll say I'm 47, but late in my life, that all great men are not good men. And then so I tried to embark on a whole different career and try to become good. But what's the concept of good? Being a floor mat, I never understood the concept of good. So how do we live in those two dimensions at once? You want that greatness for self-gratification, but you want goodness from a human perspective. And I really have no idea, no clue how do I juggle both of them and be in harmony? And then in all actuality, they don't exist. You have to pick a side. I always had a very complex life, and I never had a good psychological opinion about myself, and that's because of my upbringing and my view on my life and my view of just my whole barometer as a person. And so I never grasped that love of that particular identity.